On Sunday, when Drew Lock exited for the Broncos and it began to look like he may miss some time, I pulled up the roster, looked at the depth chart, looked at the practice squad. I saw two other quarterbacks, Jeff Driscoll and Brett Rippon. And it was pretty clear that if Drew Lock was going to miss some time, they would need some help. And there aren't many guys out there. And I allowed myself to think for a second or two that maybe the guy who's been waiting for a phone call, yes, a phone call, for 3.5 years would get one. He didn't. Your guy, Blake Bortles, did. The man who was not put on earth to throw a football, as you have said repeatedly. That's your word, not mine.
Yep, that's
I don't want to get any more angry emails from anybody who are in the Blake Bortles fan club, but Blake Bortles gets the job sight unseen. Colin Kaepernick continues to wait. And, I saw someone explain yesterday, well, they wanted to sign him last year. Well, it was a different offensive coordinator last year. So, so what if they were interested last year? They were interested in Colin Kaepernick 5 years ago. But the bottom line is Bortles was available for a reason. He was on no one's 80-man roster or 90-man for the teams that had 90 and went through all the final cuts, and his name was never even mentioned. It wasn't until this Drew Lock injury that Blake Bortles comes back. And that's fine. That's their prerogative. Look, I'm done. I've reached the acceptance phase that Colin Kaepernick, it's over, it's done. And I think this Blake Bortles signing by the Broncos is just simply another last nail in the coffin.
Yeah, it is. It really is. There's no doubt. Bortles is a fortunate situation for him because the Broncos are one of those situations where, like you said, you look at the roster and you go, oh, man, yeah, they don't have much there. It's just those two guys, and then it's a lot of unproven commodities that no coach or GM in their right mind's going to go, oh, well, hey, we'll roll the dice and let him be the backup this week. Jeff Driscoll could get hurt first drive, high ankle sprain, and all of a sudden you're going, whoa, we got a young guy like Rippon who was on the practice squad last week out here in the game or whatever it may be. So that's why they needed Blake Bortles for just in case Driscoll gtes hurt. They got to have a guy that at least is played NFL football, knows how to run an offense, get in and out of the huddle, do those type of things. So I think that's where the value of Bortles is here. Just more or less that, being able to execute an offense, been in a few different ones, so he'll be able to pick it up, fairly quickly. And yeah, Blake is not a guy, that is put under earth to throw the football. He is big, he's got some leadership, and he's a good athlete. And at the very worst, they'll have to figure something out with that type of skill set. But, yeah, I don't expect him to be in there to beat Jeff Driscoll out or anything like that. Driscoll played well last week, very, very well.
How telling is it that the Rams signed Bortles last year?
Says it all.
The backup to Jared Goff. And they let his contract lapse. And there was never a conversation, never a discussion, never an inkling about bringing him back. Doesn't that – look, and I'm sorry to anyone out there that – is in the Blake Bortles fan club, as small as it may be, but doesn't that tell us everything?
Pretty much. It does, yes. I think that is the ultimate writing is on the wall. Sean McVay, quarterback whisperer, offensive genius. There they are with a team, the year after the Super Bowl. Here we are 2 years after the Super Bowl. They went in another direction with a guy that's an unproven commodity too this year to be a backup quarterback and just said that. So, yeah, they obviously didn't love what they saw from Blake Bortles. That's where, he's not the perfect backup in the world, as we know, because he's not going to come out just throwing balls all over the field and doing that. That's not what he is. He's never been about that. And, he wouldn't be my backup. That's all I'm saying.
Who would you have picked between Bortles and Kaepernick, or is that a stupid question?
Well, it's not a stupid. There's no question between the talent and things like that. But again, I think even for a guy like me who loved Colin Kaepernick and was saying at one point he was one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football, I just would be scared to death that it's been that long, he hasn't played, and it's just not that easy to get back out there and play football or even get into the practice mode when you haven't been around it, especially a quarterback. It's different there. So I understand them going with Bortles just because of the experience and he's been around and doing those type of things, and he's not a distraction. But the talent, the pure talent, that's not even close.
Yeah, Bortles hasn't done anything all year either.
No, you're right.
Shape Bortles is in.
You're right.
The last time he was with the team was week 17 of last year.
That's right.
No employment after that all the way until yesterday.
Yeah.
And one quick history lesson for those of you out there who are inclined to traffic in the Colin Kaepernick false narratives, because one of them is that the Broncos were interested in him after he became a free agent and he said no thank you. That is just not true.
You hear
Here's
that
what
everywhere.
happened.
It actually drives me crazy. It's become the story, and it's not real.
And here's the thing, and this is a line that D. Smith used during the lockout in 2011. You're entitled to your own opinions. You're not entitled to your own facts. These are the facts, and they are undisputed. It was in 2016 when the 49ers were considering moving on from Colin Kaepernick because his contract was $12 million, and it was guaranteed at that point because he had 3 different injuries that required surgery. They couldn't cut him before the start of the league year, or more accurately, April 1, when his contract became guaranteed for skill injury and cap, and they had the $12 million on the books. So they looked into trading him. The Broncos were very interested in trading for Colin Kaepernick. That was after Peyton Manning retired and Brock Osweiler defected for the Texans. So the Broncos were interested, but what they wanted to do was to get Colin Kaepernick to take less than the $12 million he was fully entitled to, and he said no thank you, and that's when the trade fell through. And there's a postscript to this. Because then in 2017, when he was a free agent without a $12 million guaranteed salary, with no real leverage at all and no one interested, John Elway's position on Kaepernick was, well, he had his chance last year. That's why we're not interested in him this year. Meanwhile, after Brock Osweiler was the subject of the hot potato trade that sent him from the Texans to the Browns, and the Browns cut him, and the Broncos needed another quarterback, they signed Osweiler, even though Osweiler stuck his finger in their eye in free agency the year earlier. You can't make this stuff up, Chris.
No, you cannot, and that is the story. You're right. It's amazing how the stories become paraphrased, and that, yes, somehow it's
falsified.
Fault. And he is the one that had the chance to sign with the Denver Broncos and didn't do it. And that's just not the way it went down. But that's the world we live in right now. There is the facts, and then there's the story that people like to tell themselves so they feel good that aren't the facts, but they just feel good, I guess, about it. I don't know.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.